Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I haven't heard this kind of speech or this kind of statement coming from the other side. I don't want to say Americans or Ukrainians, the other side, which is led by the United States of America. In this case, as a statement of a draw. We've been hearing about Ukraine will win, Russia will lose, Ukraine will defeat, we will win, the values, the blah blah will. We've been hearing this since the beginning of all this in February 24th, 2022. This is one of the only times when I hear an important official, and this is Mark Milley, which I personally don't give him a lot of, if you know what I mean. Not because I don't like him, but I think that based on his statements, he's not that bright. That's my assessment. I can have it as anyone can have it about me. That's fine. But always bring evidence. So one of the evidence that I can provide for these guys to support my statements or my claim is when he showed up in front of a senatorial commission and he said that he's an angry white man, and he the biggest threat in the U.S. military is the angry white man, and he has to do this and has to do that. And I said, well, that's very military-like, so you are an idiot. So let's move on. So what did this guy say? This is what his assessment is, and he's allowed to say it. This is very interesting. Comes from Ukrainska Pravda from February 16th, 2023. General Milley, war will end at negotiation table. Neither Russia nor Ukraine will achieve their goals. One of them must be losing, or both of them will be winning. I said it before, I'm pretty sure both sides will claim victory. Therefore, they will, in both countries, national conscience will remain that they won. That's how they will tell history to their children, and that's how they will fight again in the future. And again, NATO will claim victory because they stopped Russian evil invasion. But I am, how should I put it, 98% certain that Russia will lose or will go to the negotiation tables under one circumstance. If their four requirements are fulfilled, requests, demands, and there are the four that they started with: denazification of Ukraine, whatever that is, demilitarization, no NATO, and those territories going to be Russian. They will not do anything if those are not recognized. And if Milley says that none will win, I would like to know how he envisions that. He envisions that the Russians will go back on their unification or annexations of those territories. I don't think so. After you had, according to these guys, 140,000 people killed in the war, 140,000, I don't think so. It's like that joke that an Englishman told me a long time ago. His name is Jamie. He's an Englishman, and he was making fun of his British compatriots. And this little joke he made fun of a certain kind of group, and I said it was the Irish. He was making jokes on Romanians too, called us sleazy, hairy, and what was that? Like sweaty, hairy, and all that, dark, and okay, whatever. He was a funny guy. I always liked the guy, and I still do. So he said, "It's like that joke with the Irish that started swimming the English Channel towards France. He reached the middle of the channel, swimming. He got tired and he turned around. So basically, the Russians should do the same thing. Why don't you go the other half forward and you accomplish the goal? So I don't think the Russians will go in as they went, and when they're here, they're gonna say, you know what, all this is for nothing. Let's go back after all this, stupidity. I don't think that's gonna happen. So anyway, Milley, if he says that, that means there are certain, how should I put it, realities in the field that tell him that the situation is not very well organized. One, these guys the big guys here, they will have to produce ammunition for Ukraine. I don't know if Ukraine will still have enough manpower to fight. They have to find ways to send some manpower over there, some military under some euphemisms like, I don't know, peacekeeping, lovemaking, perfect fighters, something like that. And I don't know how that's going to happen. And I don't think they're eager to go all the way, because the society will probably sanction them at the polls. Yeah, not only. So let's see what Milley has to say here. Let's see what evidence he's bringing. Yeah, this guy right here. General Mark Milley, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said that neither, excuse me, neither Russia nor Ukraine is likely to achieve their military aims, and he believes the war will end at a negotiating table. Well, they're going to negotiate, okay. Milley said this in an interview with Financial Times, and I'm quoting, "It will be almost impossible for the Russians to achieve their political objectives by military means. It is unlikely that Russia is going to overrun Ukraine. They don't want that, never said it. It's just not going to happen. If you don't want it, how the hell it could happen by chance?" And I'm quoting again, "It is also very, very difficult for Ukraine this year to kick the Russians out of every inch of Russian-occupied Ukraine. It is not to say that it can't happen, but it's extraordinarily difficult, and it would require essentially the collapse of the Russian military," he added. You didn't know this? You just figured it out now after a year? No, maybe right now you're just allowed to say it. You knew this for a long time, unless you are, as I said, below 86 IQ and you are living in your dream world. Asked if the moment for diplomacy between Russia and Ukraine had passed, Milley said that, and I'm quoting, "We are weeks away from the beginning of spring, but it's a rolling window. There's opportunities at any moment in time." Oh, well, that was smart of you, Milley. That impressed me, actually. You won a few points on my scale. Good job. Details, however, both sides were, and I'm quoting, "dug in pretty hard on their objectives," end quote, "and unwilling to negotiate," according to Milley. No, that's false. You're a liar, I think. You're not even misguided here, or below 86, because they wanted to negotiate, if you remember, and they did in March. They met 5 times, and eventually they met in Erdogan's Turkey. And then who landed the next day after the envoy, Ukrainian envoy from Turkey, landed in Kiev? Who landed over there as well? Then Prime Minister, what's his name, Johnson, Boris Becker Johnson. And what happened the next day? The Ukrainians informed the Russians the deal is off. What a coincidence. I mean, there's a lot of people saying that actually that was, hey, we're going to give everything, just go fight, destroy any negotiations with these guys. Otherwise, how could Johnson change the whole thing? And Johnson was the emissary. He was not the guy in charge, like he was in charge of the Great Britain. And he tries to come back now. So, my friends from Great Britain, do you have anybody else besides the 3? Which is Sunak, Maharishi Sunak, what's his name, Boris Becker Johnson, and Lazy Lizard Truss. Do you have anybody else? Because now they're thinking about getting Boris Becker back. What's going on here? Why don't you take Lizzie? You don't have anybody else? Someone I'm talking capable? Because as of now, Sunak, Maharishi did worse than Lizzie. Lazy was just taken out. Lazy was taken out by these guys, just not good. And this guy won behind the scenes. And what did he do? Better? I don't think so. But anyway, you know best. That's why you had how many strikes already under Maharishi? Don't tell me that was Lazy Truss's policies that she couldn't even implement because she was not allowed. And this guy somehow has been, 120 days already in office, and she was not even allowed. How many days she was over there? How come she was taken out so fast doing something stupid, and he's not taken out so fast after more days? Bring someone tick, 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 and with a British heart. I was about to say English heart. I would have been. Anyway, British heart. All right, so Milley said the conflict echoed a lesson from the Second World War that aggression must be stopped with firmness, deterrence, and military power. Well, they tried that in Iraq, but they couldn't. You were too strong. Though he noted that with Russia's nuclear arsenal, the stakes were now higher. Really, you didn't know this at the beginning? I think it's just a sign was given. Hey guys, we just veer to the left right now, so everybody, calm down, cool it off. No airplanes, take it easy. Maybe the Russians now break everything over there, and then we're gonna discuss somehow before they take over. In this particular case, I'm quoting, it's against a country that is large and is nuclear armed. So you have to be very, very conscious about managing escalation. Really, you gave them everything. You gave them tanks. You talk about giving them fighter jets. You're going to give them long-range missile systems. You gave them HIMARS. You gave them howitzers. You gave them. You sanctioned those guys 11,000 times. What's going on here? You kicked them out from all these things. You even imposed embargo on their oil cap and all that. And you're telling me, oh, we have to be very conscious about managing escalation. Yeah, managing is the key word. At the same time, you have to uphold the principles for which the United Nations was founded and which the international order is resisting on. I use the international order like what? You can do whatever you want and everybody does whatever you tell them to do? Well, if that's the order, I don't want to live under that order. How about that? And these guys are strong enough to rebel. 2 days ago, Milley stated that Russia has lost strategically, operationally, and tactically the year after the beginning of the full-scale invasion. He also claimed that the American side currently sees no signs of a possible Russian attack on Kiev. Why would they? Anyway, so we have here, where we land, a negotiation table. Neither, boom, boom. Remember, maybe, do you remember what the Russians asked for before January 2022, that is December 2021? Remember what they issued, they gave to the Americans, and for about 1.5 years before that, they spoke about? They wanted security guarantees on the paper, signed, legally binded, or whatever is the term, that NATO will not bring military infrastructure in Ukraine, and so on. Ukraine would be a nuclear, how do you call it? Neutral state, and other the separatist regions will become have an autonomous part within, being autonomous within Ukraine. Ukraine will not be broken. No war, nothing like that. You remember that one? And a little bit other more details. And what happened? The Americans did not even talk to them. Did not want to negotiate. And now this guy comes and said that we're going to end up in December 2021, I'm sorry. Why didn't you talk then? That was the last time the Russians issued and say, okay, this is what we would like to talk with you. And the Americans, honey, put it in the fire. So now we go back to that one. We go to my friend Jamie's joke. They went halfway with all the damage, all the destruction, and now you go back to where it was in 2021 December. Yes, you know why? Because that was a nice try. These guys tried, did not succeed. Russia did not collapse. So now I'm gonna pick up the pieces and say, okay, let's negotiate whatever. I think that's what it is. And the fact that this guy comes out after a day and says, well, they lost, but they will end up to negotiate and no side will win. What do you mean no side will win? After we've been told that the Russians will be punished. I mean, how are the Ukrainians in the West going not to win? If they're going to ask they have to impose the Russians to pay, I don't know, about $700 billion at this point to how do you call it, repair all the damages in Ukraine. That's what they said. So you want that to happen, and somehow do you think the Russians will agree to that? Reparations or something? I mean, it's crazy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or maybe he knows, but he tells just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But this is a sign that the West, it seems to be like, let's see, it seems like we got to the third level. The first level was the initial operation, military operation, so-called special operation. And then when Putin saw that all these guys jump in with everything, he said, okay, this is not a military operation anymore. We turn it to a war. It's all against us. Those guys clearly. So they switched. They mobilized. After that counteroffensive, Ukrainian counteroffensive, the Russians said, switch. They switched it to something else. And now they switch it again to something else. So they're just pushing harder. And the Ukrainians, what do we have? They have what, 38 million people, used to, I think, out of which 15 million are out already. And they're not making children and speeding up time to make it 18 or something to be able to fight in the front. And the other ones are sending volunteers, right? How many volunteers? At one point, those volunteers will be killed and then dragged out, and they say, oh, this is James, this is Hans, and this is Pierre. What's going on here? And who knows who else? All right. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.